Oyo State.
And
morning,
finally, everyone. The only gentleman in the studio blessed amongst women, Comrade Olatunji Oluwabukola, Secretary, Tax Justice and Governance Platform, Oyo State.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, so let's look at this tax issue. You'd recall that the Federal Executive Council of the Federal Government of Nigeria on Wednesday, 11th September 2019, approved a 50% increase in the value-added tax rate applicable on supply of goods and services in Nigeria. That's from 5% to 7.5%. And this new rate is expected to take effect in 2020 after due consultations with relevant stakeholders. Now, we'd like to look at how this affects the average Nigerian and what your take is on this proposed increment. Let me start with Mrs. Deborah Salami. What's your take on this proposed increment?
My take on this proposed increment is that it falls in the category of unfair taxation. And it has been topical since this announcement. It's really controversial. You see different segments of people in Nigeria criticizing it. It is really not appropriate at this time.
But talking about people criticizing it, one of the things people who have been criticizing it have been saying is that, I'm coming to Comrade Oluwabukola now, one of the things they've been saying is that this taxation would not affect the common Nigerian, that it will only affect those who buy luxury items, those who, pay amounts that are, buy things that are taxable, that there are some things that they do not place tax on. But when you go to shopping malls, you go to buy drinks, you buy food items, you see a part when they give you the receipt. There's a part where they write VAT, so percent. So how do you marry that statement by some people and that particular? I'm talking to you, Comrade.
Yes, let me say that I think that statement is not true. Because there is no way it will not affect a common man. I live in the grassroots. I pay for VAT. Whether you like it or not, I buy recharge cards, and I pay VAT on recharge cards. Definitely, the amount I will be paying on that increases. So whatever luxury I'm using at the grassroots, which other, even let me say rich man or an average person or the poor, we also use it, whether we like it or not. So it affects all strata of Nigerian citizen. So it doesn't mean that it is those people that are buying luxury things alone that it will affect. Whether we like it or not, it will cut across from the top to the grassroots. So it affects everybody.
So where did that notion come from? Maybe I should bring it to you, Ms. Peter.
Okay, I think it's a very wrong notion that people will assume that VAT will not reach everybody. VAT is value-added tax. So it's a tax charged to purchase of goods and services. So for you to buy a bottle of drink, for you to buy recharge credit, there is VAT already on it. Sometimes it is specified on your receipt, sometimes it doesn't show. So the VAT has a toll on everybody. An increase in the VAT just amounts to an increase in the poverty situation of the ordinary Nigerians. When we look at the statistics, it seems to us that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. So there is no way you would tell me that the increase in VAT will not affect the ordinary citizen.
Okay, picking it up from what Peace just said, she talked about poverty, and just last year Nigeria overtook India as the world capital of poverty. Isn't this further driving us down the drain?
I think it's driving us down to drain because this will affect mostly the grassroots, not the rich ones here. So I think I don't think it's a good idea for the government to increase.
So would it be correct, the statement by some people saying that this is a way of robbing Peter to pay Paul? Because this is coming at the heels of the 30,000 naira minimum wage, which President Muhammad Buhari said would be implemented since March, but till now has even not been implemented. Mrs. Salami.
Well, this is a for-granting approach by the government. They are looking into the future. They know that there is no way they will not have to implement the minimum wage. So it's as if they are, guarding their loins to withdraw whatever they have added into the salaries of workers. It's almost a way, a stylish way of taking it back from them. That is how I see it.
But even looking at that particular minimum wage, it has not even been implemented.
Yes, that is why I said it's a foregrounding approach.
So they are
preparing the ground. So that eventually when it comes to maybe agreements and implementation of the minimum wage, they are already settled in a way that they've already taken it from them. I think what our government should, devote its time to now is how to ameliorate poverty, how to bridge the inequality gap. You are talking about VAT the other time. You said it is the rich that will be affected more. But the rich have it all. Is it not our commonwealth? They have it all, they can afford it. What about the downtrodden masses who could not even afford 2 good meals? Let me just put it at that. They cannot afford 2 good meals. And we now add another burden, thereby increasing that inequality gap. I think the government should have a rethink about
even
it.
Looking at tax, the APC chieftain came out recently to say that instead of thinking of increasing VAT rate, why don't you widen the tax net, bring in more people who are not paying tax, and that way you won't have to.
Yes, and that is why we are here. The informal tax sector is a sector that is really difficult and complex to track down, to bring into the tax net. I think government should look inward into how they are going to capture those that are really making their millions, their thousands from the informal sector. They should, even state government should look into it, federal government should look into it. There are people transacting businesses within the space of their homes.
But how is that possible? Let me come to you, comrade. How is that possible that in a country where, yes, we say that the tax is what we use for infrastructure, for making sure that a lot of things are being done in the country, that some people are still defaulting in that area and they are not being, the torch is not being flashed on them?
Let me say that it's possible that some people will be evading tax simply because the government is not sincere. The government is not transparent. The government is not accountable. See, if you want people to pay from the informal sector, you have to tell them, you have to engage them, you have to involve them.
But isn't it a crime? Yes, you say the government is not transparent, they are not accountable, but isn't it a crime for you not to pay your tax?
No, that's what I'm saying, that it is not as if people don't want to pay. People want to pay, but they are saying, from what we have passed through in our sensitization and advocacy, people are saying they are not saying what the government is using their money to do, even if they wanted to pay. So they would rather say, okay, let me keep my money, instead of paying to them that they will embezzle or they will do, they will use it otherwise. So I think people need to gain the trust of the government first before the government can say, okay, give us your money. We are going to explain how we spend.
Mr. Salam, you want to chip
Yes,
in?
let me just interject there. You said taxpayers' money. We don't depend on taxpayers' money in Nigeria. If we depend on taxpayers' money, government will be very serious about it. And then, if there is this responsibility on the part of government, this responsibility of accountability, transparency, and that political will to fight corruption. In our experience, when we had a research at Iwo Road there, when we were, carrying out the research, I was almost torn apart in that place. They said government should just remain there and embezzle oil money, that they are not going to contribute their own quota into that space of corruption, that they are not ready. They said until government is responsive, until government is giving back to the people, until there is infrastructural rejuvenation. So people have, they have that belief, maybe that opinion, or I don't know, they just have that belief that government...
But the question is, if you're saying the government is not transparent and they are not making it accountable as to how the tax is being spent, and that's why some people are not paying, what about the people that are paying?
Yes. Mostly people in the formal sector are paying because of the payee, pay as you earn, which is deducted even before they get their salary from source. But you know, those that are even paying, are they really paying correctly? Are they paying what they should pay?
So from the sound of it, Peace, it's sounding like there's something not being put in place to ensure that, okay, these people that are paying, are they paying correctly? The people that are not paying, why are they not paying? Why are they not being brought to book? What is being done to ensure that they pay? Isn't there supposed to be like a body or a system that is supposed to check all this?
Of course there is. There's supposed to be a body to check tax payment. Nationally, there is this body, that the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which collects tax. It's saddled with the responsibility of collecting tax. And at state level, there are boards of internal revenues where they generate taxation. But these boards have to be strengthened to go beyond just the formal taxes, the collection of tax from the formal sector to informal sector taxation. I think the informal sector is a place where the government can really leverage on getting taxes if they can just get public trust again. What is lacking are elements of public trust. When the government loses public trust, it's difficult to get buy-in from the ordinary people. Did you see
the story about the FIRS boss remaining in office despite his term being expired? That's Babatunde Fowler.
Those are elements of corruption that needs to be tackled from that point, from that top up to the bottom down, and then from the bottom up, from the bottom, from the grassroots level, the tax issues, elements of corruption that needs to be tackled.
But what role does that play, though, in the issue of dealing with those who pay, those who do not pay, those who are defaulting in the amount they're supposed to pay? Talking to you now, Deborah, the fact that there's corruption in that FIRS sector.
I have said it earlier. I said, if government is serious about collecting tax, especially from the informal sector, then there are structures to be put in place. We don't collect tax.
Are you saying the structures are not in place?
The structures are in place, but they are not in full effect.
Okay.
They have to strengthen it. And that is what we are doing. Because we need to get people to buy in into paying tax. Already they believe, some of them, it was in the 70s and probably the 80s, maybe 60s, 70s, that people believe is something of a pride to pay tax. In fact, there is a song along that line in Ibadan Axis, in Oyo State Axis, that they say, "Owo orido de, odo de baba wa lo koksan. Àwọn tí ò san, wọ́n bẹ láti mọ́lé." That time,
it was a thing
it
of
was
pride.
strengthened. It was a thing of pride for you to pay, and then the government functionaries, they are there to effect that, to see to it that you pay. If you are not paying, if you are defaulting, you see those forefathers in that time, they run, some that are not ready to pay, they run into the bush. Why are they running? Because the hand of the law is pursuing them. Which hand of the law is pursuing anyone here now?
So it means that there's a defect in the infrastructure, in the system.
In the system,
because there is nothing to checkmate those who are not.
And you ask me why that? Because we over-rely on oil money.
That's one.
Can we compare that with others in the Western world who do not have mineral resources? All they rely on is the taxpayer.
All right, Mr. Salami, let's take some calls. 0815-192-5925, 0812-102-4846. Those are the numbers to call to join the conversation this morning. We're talking about the proposed tax increment, and I have officials from the Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group right here in the studio with me doing justice to that topic. Now, looking at this tax increment, if you check out how much other countries pay for tax, you see that a country like, you see different countries paying higher rates, higher than even this proposed increment, this proposed 7.5 that the federal government is saying that would take effect from next year. And a lot of people are saying that if a country like Djibouti can be paying, higher, let's say above 27%, why should Nigeria be crying under proposed 7.5%? Is that something to raise concerns, Mr. Salami? if you have other countries that are paying higher, say more than 20%, and Nigeria is still grappling under a VAT rate of proposed 7.5%, is that something to raise concerns?
It's well, to me personally, if we domesticate that, it's nothing to raise concern for.
Okay.
Because those countries that you are saying they are paying 20%, what are the living conditions there? What are the infrastructural situations there? Are we living in the same way? What is the poverty level there? Can it be compared with Nigerian situation? If not, then they can pay as much as they can pay. But here, we say we want a pro-poor tax. We want a fair taxation. We want a system of tax that will bridge the inequality gap.
Okay, so let's talk about the issue of double taxation. We see a lot of people, especially in the labor market, complaining of double taxation. Why is it that sometimes they get to pay double taxes on goods that are supposed to even... Some of these items are not luxury items, and then they get to pay double taxes on them. Isn't this something that the federal government should also look into?
Yes, it is. It's something that raises concern for us, and that is what some of our activities at the Tax Justice and Governance Platform nationally and even at state levels are poised to correct. People pay double taxation because of the differences because of the multiple tax systems from the federal level to the state level, even to the local government level that are in place. So what we propose and what we are suggesting is harmonization of the tax laws, so that we don't have different bodies collecting the same tax on the same item and putting the burden on the ordinary people. Because when a particular person, maybe a salesperson, obtains a goods and wants to make profit, he definitely will transfer the taxes to the ordinary persons who will bear the burden. So this is increasing the...
So how does that work, the harmonization of the different levels, federal, state and local governments?
Well, we've been on advocacy to the different government agencies saddled with the responsibility of collecting taxes, so that they too can look into our demands for the benefit of the ordinary people. So we are making progress with that at different stages. We are currently on advocacy visit to some of the agencies of government within the Oyo State, even at the national level too. So I think that's a way to go to see that the tax and laws are harmonized.
Okay, so let's discuss the Tax Justice and Governance Platform, what they've been doing to correct the injustices in the taxation administration. Let me come to you, Mrs. Salami.
Yes, the Tax Justice and Governance Platform, let me just give credit to Oxfam, and I want to give credit to NDEBUMOG, our partners. So they have really helped us in terms of training and all that, and that is what we are giving back in our state. So what we are doing majorly is advocacy and sensitization. Advocacy on the side of government. We are going to the state actors, talking to them, asking them. There are certain demands that we have for them. The first thing is what my sister Peace has just said, the harmonization of the tax laws and policies. There are some taxes that overlap from the federal government to the state
and
to the local government. So we want them.
But why does that happen though?
Well, that is in the documents. So I think each one is trying to, widen a scope of tax collection. So, and that is why we have that. But if we can have an agreement that within a state we can harmonize, once we harmonize, we will roll out the idea of this double taxation or whatever. Then, on the part of government, we want to erase or eradicate the middleman involvement in tax collection. This has been a very serious issue.
Let's talk more on that middleman involvement, because as you said, it has created a lot of issues. But why do we still keep having that particular issue?
And that is what we are moving for. That we want them to eliminate middlemen. The world is going digital. Why do we still do with paperwork? Make it simple and make it direct.
But you discover that when it comes to digitalization, that is one major issue that Nigeria still has, especially when it comes to data collation. You discover that the population, we've had different statistics coming out to say we are 200, we are 190, we are 201. People even coming from outside to tell us our population, the number of people in our own country. So that part of digitalization has been an issue in Nigeria for a long time now. So how do we eradicate this middleman issue?
Yes, we have been in consultation with Oyo State Board of Internal Revenue, and I'm very happy to inform you that Oyo State, the new government, is now working tirelessly to put in place automation. If you want to pay your tax in Oyo State now, there is this system being developed by InterSwitch.
Okay.
Because the day we led an advocacy to that place, we met people that are involved in this process of digitalization. And they are going to make it so simple, so brief, that people will be able to pay, and they pay directly into government coffer, not into the hands of a middleman who has already printed a receipt.
That would be interesting.
That is what we will have in Oyo State. I make bold to say it. And I thank God for the life of Aremo John Adeleke, the new chairman of the Board of Internal Revenue Oyo State. He's really passionate about that automation.
Okay, now she has just elaborated on the issue of eradicating the middlemen and going digital when it comes to tax payment. But what are the other areas when it comes to tax justice in Nigeria? Mr. Comrade Abubakar. Comrade Oluwabukola, I beg your pardon.
Let me say that as for us in Oyo State, we have been engaging the citizens. We have the phase 1, which has been carried out, and we pick some local governments as piloting local governments for the sensitization. We are on this phase 2 project now, and which is sensitization of the citizens, majorly the markets, men and women, as we have it now. Let me say that today
some of them even pay taxes unconsciously without knowing it.
Yes, and some didn't pay. And I can tell you that the major problem we are having is most of them complained of infrastructure within the market, and that's the reason why they don't want to pay. And let me say that from our sensitization with the citizens, we get to know that governments need to bring tax payments to people. They should bring it closer to them. Okay, I would not like to mention some organizations that are doing some businesses with people that in a throw stone you can have access to their business and trade with them. So if government can do this, the payment of tax will be more easier for people. People will pay, and there will be more opportunities for the government. And let me say that from the sensitization also, or let me say the taxation work, what we are campaigning for now is tax to service.
Okay.
Tax to service is, if people are paying, there must be something to show for what they are paying for.
Okay.
That is, if I am paying my tax, the road to my house should be well tarred. If I am paying my tax and my people in my community are paying their tax, we must have a very good and a very equipped health center.
But does it automatically translate to that? Because when you look at the bureaucracy involved, a lot of it goes from hand to hand. Of course, except we deal with this issue of the middlemen. Let me say that it has to. If it is easier for the government to get money from the citizen, it should be easier for the government to pay back into that system. What should be is different from what is currently happening.
Let me just interject at that point. You see, the taxpayers' money, our commonwealth, if you look critically, you know they are used to develop the areas where the rich people live. Go to Lekki, go to Aja, go to Bodija, go to Oluyole, go to those places. Government start their roads, government provide the necessities there. But I know it can't work directly as we say it.
That's the question.
But the model that we have adopted, this is the model. Within a market circle where we are sensitizing people, they surely have some issues which normally government should look into and settle for them. Like in a particular market that we've been to in NDEBUMOG, the drainage system in that market is so bad that the market is usually flooded. I think when these people are paying regularly and they are paying promptly and they are paying correctly, even if they are not paying, it is the duty of government to provide such services for them. So now that they are paying, we have told the people, if you continue to pay now, we will stand in the gap for you. Between you and the government, we will speak on your behalf.
And in your advocacy, have people been responding? Are they open to?
People have been responding. They said they are ready. When we rise up from your program now, we are going on market sensitization at Moniya Farmers Market. We've had pre-market sensitization meeting with the market leaders, and they said they are very ready, because this model that we brought to them, tax to service, they said if this one is in place, then we have been appointing tax monitors among the market men and women in each sector. Those selling maize, those selling yam, you will have a tax monitor within your group who will monitor that.
Is this recognized by the government so that you don't just work in isolation?
They bought into our programs.
Okay.
They said we are doing what they are supposed to do for them.
Okay.
They said we are doing what they are supposed to do for them. So they have embraced it, and today we are going to have a representation of those state actors in our program.
Okay. Now, just yesterday, I'm coming to you now, Deborah. Just yesterday, Governor Seyi Makinde said that we should. Okay, she's Falashade. All right. Sorry, you're so many. And they mix up. Just yesterday, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State said that he was warning the illegal tax collectors who have been defrauding innocent people with the issuance of fake tickets. And the Commissioner for Works, Transportation, Professor Raphael Afonja, spoke on behalf of the governor while on inspection to motor parks in Ibadan, saying that some individuals were still issuing out tickets to motorists on behalf of the government. Now, what could be wrong here? One of the first things that Governor Seyi Makinde did when he came into government was that he proscribed that particular NURTW phase and all that. And now we still have them taxing motor park officials, the drivers, the commercial vehicle drivers and all that. What could be wrong here? Why is this not being nipped in the bud?
I think one of the reasons that this has not been nipped in the bud is maybe the absence of task force in ensuring that the government policy has not been put in place. So what we would suggest at this level is that the government establishes a task force that monitors these illegal collectors and chases and develop a means to see that the activities are put to an end.
Okay.
So that is one of the ways we would suggest that these illegal tax collectors are taken off the streets.
Okay.
Yes, let me just add something there. When you make a pronouncement that is maybe a kind of policy statement, I think it has to be followed up by enforcement. When you don't follow it up by enforcement, you know how our people, they will find a way around it. They will definitely find a way around it. Those that have gone around to print illegal receipts and started shortchanging the people, you see, it's because there is no enforcement. If the task force are all out, all over the place, monitoring, effecting it, I don't think people will venture into that. And if anyone is caught, the hand of law should catch up with such a person.
And to add to that too, I think that since these tax men who are collecting illegal taxes have been on the road too, I think they can be useful in a way to the government. If they could be on the enforcement team too and sensitize appropriately on how to collect tax legitimately, then it will be positive on both sides. So that, because these are citizens too, that if they are engaged, if they are on a job, I don't think anyone will go to the street and start collecting what has been warned against. So I think that's a way to go to stop illegal tax collections on the road.
Okay, so hopefully what we're expecting now is an enforcement of the law. Yes, the governor said no more taxes on the commercial bus drivers, but there also has to be enforcement to ensure that those who flout that law are being brought to book. Okay, now let's talk about, we're still talking about tax justice. Now, I'm sure there are still some areas we've not touched on that involve the tax justice system.
Well, I just want to add to what they've said earlier. Concerning this tax justice of a thing, I think the government should come into the play of maybe justifying whatever tax people are paying to them. People are not maybe turning up because they are not getting justice for what they are paying for. So maybe that's why there is a low turn in tax paying in the society. That is what I see about it.
Okay, Mr. Salami, you want to add anything to that?
Yes. Government should ensure that whatever policy they put in place, they monitor it. Once it is being monitored, I think we will have success rates. So the other thing that I want to add is transparency. Publish what you have taken. Don't just collect tax from people, and then when it comes to the data or giving feedback to the taxpayers, then the figures are no longer there. This is what we have collected within so time. Periodic.
It looks like corruption has played a lot of role in this whole tax issue, this tax justice system. That's why people do not believe the government anymore, comrade.
Yes, that's what we have been saying. That's the reason why we are sensitizing people in Oyo State that see whether the government is doing it right or wrong, you have to pay your tax. If you pay your tax, you can now ask questions that, okay, what we have paid to you, how are you using it? And let me say that on the side of the government should not wait for the people asking for them to gain that trust.
The people even have a voice? That's the question now. You're saying that when they pay their tax, they'll be able to ask, do they have a voice?
Yes,
when they want to demand the things that you promised them?
That's what we are doing now, sensitizing them that they have to pay and they should be able to ask questions. And let me say that in one of our advocacy, or the sensitization we're having for them, what we did is, after the sensitization, and when they promise, we bring them back to the state actors at the local government. This is what these people said. This is what the situation they are passing through. Is it true? Did you know about it? So, and they see that, okay, there's reason for synergy between the local government officials and the market men and women. There's need for them to have a synergy so that they can be successful at both ends. And let me say that for the government, even if it is just for once in a year, let people know that, okay, for those people that have paid, though, this is what we realize, and this is how we are spent. People will decide on their own that, oh, we are giving you more.
It all boils down to data, if you ask me.
Let me say, government will not be sincere about data. And let me say that even that data we are saying, do they have data, and do they have the correct data? So these are problems, and I think if government wants to be sincere, they're supposed to have a accurate data that they can. But you know all this system in government.
Mr. Salam,
I have gained a lot from the Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group, even though it's a sectoral something, but it's something we are bringing.
No, I was going to ask that question. Yes, why focus on Oyo State?
Yes,
as a Niger Delta budget.
It's not Oyo State alone. We have 16 states in this pilot project.
Okay.
And the Niger Delta.
How many states have you touched on now?
We are working currently in 11 states.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. So the Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group is the manager of the tax justice platform from the national level. We receive support from Oxfam to give people tax sensitization and ensure that the taxes that are accrued from the government side also benefit the people. So we are a voice for the people, advocating both for the benefit of the government and for the benefit of the ordinary citizen.
Okay, so 11 states covered.
Yes, it's not only the tax area. In the budgetary processes, we've really gained a great resource from Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group, because if you see the way their people are monitoring the budgetary process, they are monitoring the execution, they are monitoring they are evaluating the outcomes and impacts. You see, it's something that we want to replicate here, so that the citizens will be involved. citizens' involvement in governance. Not just in taxation alone, in the budgetary process. It's not that we want to defend budgets today. Today, you are just sending messages to people today. Send messages to them maybe 2 weeks ahead. And let them come and see what the input they can have. So,
okay, let me come to you, Peace, now. Now, one of the reasons the proposed increments, tax increments came up was to actually boost the revenue in the country. They were talking about boosting the gross domestic product and all that. And there are other areas we can look into. I know Mrs. Salami was saying the other time that it's because we focus on the oil sector in Nigeria. That's why we're having majority of those problems we have. And there are other things we can look into to boost our revenue as against jacking up the tax rates.
Of course, many other areas are there where the government can key in and expand. Instead of just increasing the tax rate, we can also expand the tax net, like Mrs. Salami earlier said. Expanding the tax net, bringing all actors, those who are avoiding or dodging tax, if I can say dodging tax, which is a common language, let us bring all of us into the tax net. Let people pay appropriately and adequately the amount they are supposed to pay, so that we will with this we can realize a higher rate than what we are chasing after, increase in VAT from the ordinary people. It is only going to increase the level of poverty. That's our take on this. So we can look at other areas. Investment in the agricultural sector, it can increase our revenue base. That
agricultural sector you just mentioned, it has been the focus according to this administration. They say they want to focus on the agricultural sector, and now you know about the closure of the borders to ensure that yes, the production inward is being increased. But are there no other areas aside even agriculture? Now we're talking about agriculture. Wouldn't there be the fear of now moving from oil to now focus mainly on agriculture, and then we leave other sectors lying fallow?
No, we are not saying just leave the oil and focus on agriculture. We are saying that expand the tax net, increase your investment in other areas. You can even increase investment in development of small businesses. That people have ideas, great ideas to execute, but they do not have the funds. Can we create an opportunity for small loans to be given to businesses so that they can try, so that they can develop? ICT sector is a booming sector. India is thriving on ICT. Americans are thriving on ICT. That's a very key area that the government can invest in. The world is moving away from oil. There are electric cars in many parts of the world now. So if we continue our investment and concentration on oil, who will buy our oil in the next 10 years? Who will buy our oil in the next 20 years? If the world is moving as fast as it is, Nigeria needs to come back from oil dreams and move to other areas where we can really reap the impacts. Agriculture is there. ICT is there. Development of our businesses are there. We can do a lot with those.
Mrs. Alami,
yes, then industrialization is also another key area. Most of the industries are leaving Nigeria because of this issue of power. So, how do you want Nigeria to be industrialized? How will Nigerians not rely on imported goods, which are not even adding values to our fiscal policy? So I think government should use the oil money, now that Nigeria is still gaining revenue from oil money, before the depletion, because there could be depletion.
You know, it was actually said, it was yesterday that news came out that Nigeria's exports increased, and it was largely due to oil exportation. And one would begin to wonder, why can't we just look inwards, develop our refineries that are moribund, and boost production inwards? Yes, we've shut the borders, but the untold hardship is causing for Nigerians. It is nothing to write home about, comrade.
Let me say that for the common man, I think if you are saying you are producing, you have to project that you have enough that can cater for 5-10 years. You have to have a storage that can cater for 5 to 10 years.
So would you say the closure of the border
is not in order for now? It's not in order. Though we want to build our own economy, but we have to start gradually. It shouldn't be the thing that we say we are starting today and we close everything today. No, it has to be a gradual process. Okay, for agriculture, are we very, very sure that we are capable of feeding ourselves? When the government is saying they are producing rice, of what quantity. So I think they are producing rice. People will not be buying rice for a bag for 21,022 if they are producing. If we are producing. So before you can execute a policy, there must be precautions, there must be a way of giving
cushioning the effect for people so that
they have not done.
Which they have not done. So in the agricultural area, let me say that the buildings that cocoa proceeds were being built, oil money now is not building it. You can see cocoa building everywhere in our government secretariat. That's the proceed from cocoa compared to what oil is now bringing. I think I will advise that even agriculture can give us enough revenue if actually we focus on agriculture, because we are known for that agriculture. Oil is just a blessing from God.
Even the different programs that the federal government has brought up to ensure that this agricultural sector is being developed are not working. The Anchor Boras program,
it can't work because they are doing it on whom you know. It is not being given to the real people that needs it. There are so many young people at the grassroots that needs that support. They are not getting it. And you know the bottlenecks. If you are saying you are doing an anchors program and you are saying that you must have this, you must have this, you must have this, someone you are encouraging that, okay, go into agriculture for you to have source of living, and you are now giving criterions that person can never meet. So there are ways of doing things.
Okay, now let me come to peace. In your advocacy as the Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group, for the grassroots women, those who cannot speak the lingua franca, which is English, do you communicate to them in the language they can understand?
Of course, it's important to communicate in vernacular where the need be, so that you can pass a message. You cannot be talking to yourself in big grammar and think you're passing any message. So wherever the need arises, we have to speak in a language that we all can understand and they can flow freely with us. Yes. So our dream is let the message get to the people. Let them understand why we are there. That's basically what we do.
So how has it been? Because you know, one thing that people are not very open to is change. I'm coming to you now, Mrs. Salami, especially when it has to do with parting with some cash from their pockets. What strategy are you using to ensure that these people see the need to want to part with their monies in the tax payments?
Yes, we have gotten their goodwill for paying tax in some of the markets and public areas that we have been to. I am very happy to tell you that these people, it needs meeting them, coming to their level, explaining things to them. Do you know why your market is like this? Please, when you do this, there are incentives that government will do to do for you.
Okay.
That is the strategy we are using.
There's also the issue of sustainability. After you do this now, this sensitization, you've done in 11 states now, what is the sustainability measure that you're putting in place so that even after you stop the advocacy, people can still sustain that culture?
Okay. Let me say that from the experience we had from a market in Orire local government in Oyo State here. In fact, let me say that it is the market men and women that are even giving us solutions. That okay, if they can do this, this is what we are going to do, this is how we are going to manage it, this is what we are going to continue aftermath of your leaving this project.
Okay.
So I think from the people, they have what it takes. It's only that they need sensitization, encouragement, and enlightenment.
And another thing that we have done, there's a structure we put in place amongst the market women.
Okay.
That is the tax monitors. These tax monitors, even without our involvement, we've shown them the way. We've shown them the way around whatever problems they are facing. This is the way to it. You people are already involved. You are responsible citizens. You are paying tax regularly. Then, the things that you need within your market space, the tax monitors will meet. They can give us a call. They already have our numbers.
Okay.
So they give us a call. What we do is to join them. We join force with them to meet the state actors who will do these things for them.
Are you also thinking of giving them like a toll-free line that they can easily dial and then call and report if there are any issues with tax payments?
There is, because there is a time we came about what we call tax hearing. If you are having any difficulty, you are having any challenges about tax issue, just call our number or come to our office. We are going to listen to you.
Do you work with legal practitioners who can take up cases? Because when this issue begins to manifest and you begin to see people pay their tax,
let me
some
say that
legal issues will come up.
We refer to our legal partners. So we may not have them within our own coalition, but we refer them.
They are volunteers who are ready to
work with us.
Okay.
As regards that.
Okay, Folashade, in the advocacy and the work you've been doing to ensure that this tax justice is being brought to fruition, what are some of the challenges you think you've encountered as a group?
Well, when we come to the market women, communication is very important. If they are not getting the information, there is nothing you're passing to them. They are not getting it, and I think that's one of the challenges. Some of them do not even understand pidgin, and when you go to a place whereby you don't even understand their language, like we're in Oyo now. Maybe like, sorry to say, my colleague here, she doesn't understand Yoruba. She understands pidgin, and if she wants to talk with them, they understand more of Yoruba for those that do not understand the pidgin. So it will be difficult to communicate if she comes along. So that's why we stabilize it by coming together, at least one person that understands their language, then we can work together.
But you go to the East too, don't you?
Yes.
How do you communicate? Is there anyone who speaks Igbo here?
Yes, we have partners.
Oh.
We have partners.
Okay, so Peace, you speak Igbo. You are
No,
Igbo.
I don't speak Igbo.
But there are people who
yes, we work with
with.
partners. For instance, we've come to Oyo State. We have our partners.
Oh,
Mrs. Deborah,
okay,
who is anchoring the Tax Justice and Governance platform here in Oyo State. So we have other partners working at every state where we are working currently.
Okay, so what's the future of this advocacy, Mrs. Salami?
Well, the future of this advocacy, I see it as a revolution.
Okay.
And revolution, well, sorry to use that word so that I will not be charged with hate or treasonable felony, hate language, something.
No, don't worry yourself.
But what I'm saying is that it's like, I want to put it in a way that will not be offensive. It's about social change. It's about fiscal change. It's about infrastructural change. When people are responsible on their side and government is also doing its duty at the other side, I see Nigeria being a better place for every one of us. I see redistribution of wealth. I see the redistribution of better things that people are to enjoy in the future Nigeria.
So in other words, you're like a voice for the people,
Yes.
the Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group. Like you're speaking and bringing the heartfelt desires of the people to the
Yes,
fore.
the Niger Budget Monitoring Group are our partners, appointed for us by Oxfam. Oxfam is the big baba
Yes.
that is sponsoring these campaigns.
Okay.
So the Oxfam is interested in good governance. It's interested in increasing fiscal rates in Nigeria.
And in the end result will be increase in generation of revenue.
Yes, more generation of revenue and more money for government enterprise.
Okay, let's wrap up by taking a final note. I'm going to take your pattern shot, each and every one of you. Let me start with Folashade. What will be your pattern shot?
Well, we want to encourage people to ensure that they pay their tax regularly, and I urge the government to do justice to whatever has been paid to them.
Okay, coming to you now, Peace.
Yes, taxation is a duty of the government to receive and the duty of the government of the citizens to pay. So I'll encourage citizens to continue paying their taxes, which will embolden them to ask necessary questions to their representatives and expectedly get the answers they require. You cannot make questions, you cannot raise issues where you don't make contributions. So Nigerians, we encourage you to be responsive to the needs of Nigeria, because only Nigerians can change Nigeria. Thank you.
All right, Comrade Oluwabukola.
Yes, I will encourage our people in Oyo State to pay their tax, to be responsible, and I will appeal to the government to be accountable, and there should be a sense of transparency.
Okay, transparency, very important. Mrs. Salami.
Yeah. It's still a plea to the people to do the needful. Please do the needful so that you can also be involved in governance. It doesn't mean if you are educated or you are not educated. In Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group, we see people that are not literate moving, marching up to ensure that a felt budget, a budget that is direct, that is keen to the people's needs, are put in place. That is people, common people who are not literate. So anybody at all, whether literate or illiterate, you can take up, you can be involved in governance by making meaningful contribution. But how do you make meaningful contributions when you yourself, you are not doing the needful? I want to appeal to every citizen of Oyo State, traders, people that own businesses, people that are transacting one business or the other in the informal sector. Please let us pay our tax correctly, let us pay promptly, and you are sure of government's responsiveness in the state.
Very important, the government's responsiveness, which is what makes people reluctant to pay. But of course, as you've said, when people begin to see the result of the tax they're paying, then they will be more open to paying them. Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies from the Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group. A very thank you to
Justice Platform.
And Tax Justice Platform. Thank you so much for coming on board. Thank you, Ms. Abubakar Folashade, Desk Officer, Institutional Affiliate, Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group. Thank you so much for coming this morning. And a very big thank you to Ms. Peace Peter, Documentation Officer, Niger Delta Budget Monitoring Group. Thank you for coming on board.
Thank you for having me.
And also Mrs. Deborah Salami, Platform Host and Deputy Coordinator, Tax, Justice and Governance Platform, Oyo State. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And finally, the gentleman in the studio, Comrade Olatunji Oluwabukola, Secretary, Tax, Justice and Governance Platform, Oyo State. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is where we'll wrap it up on today's interview segment of Rise and Shine. We've been talking about tax justice and everything that has to do with tax in Nigeria. My name is Amobolande Adeshui. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Impact Business Radio, IBR. We mean business.
For the very best in qualitative and informative news with educative program on the go, tune in to Impact Business